First up is the big political story this evening, a surgical strike on poverty. That was Rahul Gandhi's claim just a day after the Congress party announced a minimum income guarantee of 72,000 rupees every year to the 20% of poorest families in India if voted to power. Now, the scheme, with an acronym called NYAY, will likely entail an expenditure of 3,60,000 crore rupees a year, given that there are roughly 25 crore households with 5 crore coming in the poorest categories. Now, an hour later, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley called the poll promise a bluff and added that the Congress has a history of swindling people in name of poverty elevation. The Niti Aayog too dismissed the scheme. Vice Chairman Rajiv Kumar called it an election gimmick and said that the scheme, if implemented, will take Indian economy 4 steps back. The Congress's minimum income guarantee pledge dominated the political discourse today as well. So Rahul Gandhi highlighted, and I'm quoting him here now, BJP wants to destroy the poor, Congress wants to destroy poverty. The BJP too hit back, asking him to explain why did the previous Congress governments fail to eradicate poverty. Here is the war of words that ensued today.
हिंदुस्तान के 20% सबसे गरीब लोगों को हर साल कांग्रेस पार्टी की सरकार 72,000 रुपए बैंक अकाउंट में डाल के दे देगी। उन्होंने गरीब को मिटाने का काम किया, हम अब गरीबी मिटाने का काम शुरू कर देंगे।
Eradicating poverty since 1971 with Garibi Hatao program. If Garibi is still there after the Hatao program of Srimati Indira Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi first of all will have to answer that.
I think the basic idea that I think makes sense to me is that they were going to use the socio-economic census, which was exactly designed to do something like this, and then wasn't used so much because the government changed. So I think that they'll need to update it because people have got richer since 2011, and so clearly, you know, the number of people below whatever the poverty line that they set is going to has changed.
In the current state of the situation, with the data we have at hand, we can identify a certain number of households. We can identify a certain, amount of money that would need to be spent in order for the bottom 20% or the bottom 30 or bottom 50% to benefit from a minimum income. This is possible, but for sure, there's a clear issue about data transparency in India, and this also needs to be at the heart of the current debates.
All right, we have a lot of big interviews. So here's one. If 7% growth is not creating jobs, then India may not be growing at 7%. That's a blunt assertion coming from the former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan, who called for a revamp to figure out India's accurate growth rate. Speaking to Lata Venkatesh, Rajan proposed the setting up of an independent panel with eminent economists to lift the cloud over GDP data in India. Lata, in fact, also asked Rajan if he was approached by any political party to be the finance minister. Rajan did not issue an outright denial, but he did call the question premature. In fact, Rajan even listed out his top priorities if he were to become the finance minister. Take a look.
Right now, some rating agency has marked down India's FY20 growth rate to below 7%, to 6.8. What's your own sense of the current India growth story over the next couple of years?
Look, I'm in the camp that I have no idea what the statistics are at this point. We've moved them up, down, we've changed them. I think what we need is a revamp to really figure out, what our true growth rate is. Certainly, I know one minister has said, how can we be growing at 7% and not have jobs? Well, one possibility is we're not growing at 7%. But really, I think the kind of demand coming from out there that seems to, at least at this point, anecdotal, but we'll know from the elections, is that we need economic growth that reaches us. That we need stronger sort of broad-based growth, which primarily for most people means good jobs. Okay. And what we need to do is focus on that. How do we create good jobs for the vast number of people who are leaving schools, who are leaving agriculture, who are leaving universities, in such a way that they can expand India's growth. A lot of people have said the population dividend should not become a population curse. This is the time when we need to make sure that that, in fact, doesn't happen.
Okay. If I can get a one-line answer from you, are you worried about the Indian Statistical Organization and the data put out?
Look, I'm not worried. I just think we need now to essentially clean up, find out what in fact is the source of confusion with the new GDP numbers, with the revisions, etc. And I would say setting up an impartial body to look at it is an important step to restoring confidence. And it may well be that that body pronounces do thus and such to rebuild confidence. But we absolutely need better confidence in our GDP numbers now, given the back and forth that we've had.
No, actually the bigger problem is that one unemployment report has been kept under the wraps, and that is why the fear that true data is not being revealed. I mean, the worry that it is getting politicized, the statistical infrastructure.
Yeah, sorry. I meant something broader than just the GDP number. The whole statistical apparatus, we need sort of some outside impartial views to give us a sense of, are we doing the right thing and have the right procedures been followed? This is an area where India has tremendous strength, tremendous respect in the past. And I think recent events, for whatever reason, have sort of muddied the waters. I think we need to reestablish confidence because certainly navigating without good numbers is really navigating in the dark.
If you got a shot at being finance minister or policy maker, what would your top 3 policies be?
Well, I think there are short-term issues. A number of economists, of which I was one, have put together a set of policy ideas, and they're out there for anybody to read. They're coming out in a book. But let me say very quickly that certainly I would focus on short-term actions that could put a lot of projects back on track that are still stuck, clean up the banks as quickly as possible and set them back on credit growth, some of which is happening. And third, try and find 2 or 3 key reforms which could unleash growth. Certainly one of them has to be how do we revive agriculture in a way that reduces distress. A second would be this issue of land acquisition. Can we learn from the best practices of the states and find methods that seem really fair, and in a sense also give states freedom to pick the method that works best for them so that we learn from each other's experiments, land acquisition, bank cleanup, as well as trying to find some key policies that would revive agriculture. These would be top priorities. Okay,
well, to repeat a question I've asked you before, have you been approached by any of the parties to take up a policy-making position if they were to win?
No, I think it's really premature to have these discussions. Look, I really think that this is an important election for India, and I also think we need a new set of reforms. I'd be happy to push those, ideas, and in fact, we are trying to do that more broadly to anybody who listens.
And you can catch that entire conversation tonight at 10 p.m. only on CNBC-TV18. 1% higher. Nifty Bank showed a significant jump in trade, rallying about 2% and thus ending at a record close. Mid-caps also mirrored the benchmarks and turned positive for this year. Well, the big corporate story of the day, Jet Airways is limping back to life. In fact, it was one of the stocks flying high on the Lal Street today. Remember, only yesterday, Naresh Goyal and his wife stepped down from the Jet Airways board. On the other hand, a consortium of lenders led by SBI decided to infuse 1,000 crore rupees in the airline. And as you can see at the back of that, you saw that stock up by almost 7% in trade. Today, we learned that the airline will reinstate 50 flights from the 31st of March. This, as the aviation secretary met at officials today to take stock of the airline's operational plans. Anu Sharma is here with the details. Anu, what are you picking up?
So today, the Civil Aviation Ministry and DGCA met the management of Jet Airways. SBI Chief Rajneesh Kumar was also present in that meeting. The outcome of that meeting is that the airline has told the ministry that it will add around 40 planes in the next 1 month, and has said that by April 26th, it will be able to fly a total of 75 planes. Now, the airline has said that it will start negotiations with the lessors over the next few days, and by next week, it will come back to the ministry with details of how many of those 40 grounded planes will be reinstated, the date of their restoration, and the routes that those 40 planes will cater to from April end onwards. Now, after that plan is submitted to the ministry will then offer the unused slots of Jet Airways to other carriers in consultation with the airport operators for an interim period. Now, this is the situation as of now, and it looks like the airline is trying to make a comeback of sorts. Remember, earlier today, the CEO of the airline also said that he is optimistic and looking upwards. On the other hand, the current active fleet of Jet Airways is 35, and it plans to add 40 more planes. So the ministry has said that it looks like the airline has submitted an ambitious plan, and it will continue to examine that. Now, post that, the ministry has also said that the composition of the interim committee and the other officials of Jet Airways have also said that the composition of the interim committee, which will operate the airline for the period that the lenders find an investor for the airline, will be revealed in the next couple of days. Also, as we had reported earlier in the day, that the airline plans to reinstate around 50 flights by the end of March. Remember, these flights were temporarily suspended till the end of April. So it looks like the airline is starting to increase its operations on a gradual scale. Back to you.
Today, 35 planes are flying, and henceforth, no more additional planes would be grounded. With this interim funding coming into the system, with the infusion of cash, how would the restoration of these aircraft be planned? So they said that an important element over here would be that they have to discuss the matter with the lessors. And now in the next 3-4 days, that would be their top item on priority, that they will be discussing the matter with the lessors. As per the plans given by JET, they are hopeful that by the end of next month, they would be able to fly about 40 more planes.
All right, from one big corporate story to another, here's the latest in the Mindtree takeover tussle. We told you first, and it's official. The Mindtree board has formed a panel of independent directors to evaluate what it calls an unsolicited offer from L&T. Nisha Poddar is here with the details and to tell us about the role of the independent directors. Nisha, what's next in the deal and what has been decided by the Mindtree board so far?
So two most important decisions coming out of Mindtree board today. First of all, it is buyback, which did not get a go-ahead from the board at the moment. It is told it may come up later in the day, but at the moment it is going to be extremely difficult to get that 75% shareholders approval to do any buyback, especially because L&T as well as VG Siddhartha struck that deal, and any public announcement really restricts any capital structure change. So given that restriction, it can be probably deliberated later. Like every other IT company, Mindtree would also like to do a buyback, but maybe at a later date. But they're in the storm of this takeover battle with Larsen & Toubro, and on that one, they have taken an important decision in line with the corporate governance standards of the company to really constitute an independent directors committee headed by Apurva Purohit, who will be the spokesperson and will be leading this 4-member team. Now, they will be recommending to the shareholders as well as to the board on the open offer given by L&T and also on the future course of action. Now, here remember, they are not legally tenable, the board or the shareholders, to really listen to this independent directors committee, but it will have a huge bearing given the corporate governance norms and standards set by the company. So that will be interesting to really see going forward. Also, two important dates in mid-May is when Larsen is likely to launch the open offer if they get all the necessary approvals, that is especially from the Competition Commission of India. And if the promoters of Mindtree really want to get a counter offer or a white knight or take a decision against the L&T's bid and take the fight forward, they will have to do as per regulations by mid-April. So these are important things to watch out for going forward in the tussle for Mindtree, and also as promoters try to protect their turf.
All right, Nisha, thanks for that. Meanwhile, we spoke to the company's MD and CEO, Rasav Ravanan. He said that the independent directors are aligned with the management's approach.
With respect to the independent directors, they are completely aligned with our approach. The board as a whole has endorsed the stand that we have taken and all the steps that we have taken. The independent directors have a statutory obligation, so they will fulfill that obligation as and when that appropriate time comes. But the entire leadership team and the entire board is completely aligned with this approach. So any reports that indicate any kind of differences within the board is completely, totally false.
All right, here's the latest in the Reliance Communications Ericsson tussle. The Anil Ambani-led telecom company has moved the Supreme Court seeking IBC proceedings for itself. However, Ericsson has opposed Reliance Communications' insolvency plea. Remember, the Swedish telecom major received dues worth 576 crore rupees from Arcom on the 18th of March. Now, it may have to return that amount if the Anil Ambani Group firm undergoes insolvency proceedings. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear Arcom's plea on IBC proceedings on the 28th of March. Now, India is all set to vote in 15 days and campaigning is hitting fever pitch. The BJP released its 10th list of candidates for the elections. Senior leader Murli Manohar Joshi will not contest from Kanpur seat. The party has replaced him with Uttar Pradesh Minister Satyadev Pachauri. The development comes just days after L.K. Advani was replaced by party President Amit Shah. In a short open letter to voters of Kanpur, Murli Manohar Joshi said that he has been told not to contest. Now, staying with the Bharatiya Janata Party, Menka and Varun Gandhi have swapped their seats for the upcoming elections. Menka Gandhi will fight from Sultanpur in Uttar Pradesh and Varun Gandhi will fight from Pilibhit. Both of them had swapped their seats in the 2014 elections as well. Actor and former Samajwadi Party lawmaker Jayaprada joined the Bharatiya Janata Party today. The BJP will field her from Rampur, a constituency that she represented twice. Jayaprada, along with Amar Singh, was expelled from the Samajwadi Party in 2010 for her alleged involvement in anti-party activities. She fought the 2014 Lok Sabha polls on a Rashtriya Lok Dal ticket but lost. Well, moving on to Tech Corner, there are new apps in Apple's Galaxy. The world's numero uno tech company has finally ventured into the premium subscription-based services space, and in a big way. So from news to content, from video games to credit cards, a quick disclaimer though. The new services will only be available in America for the time being and will come to India later. Megha Vishwanath brings us up to speed on the top 5 announcements made at the Apple event yesterday.
Well, after a week full of surprise launches and new hardware updates, Apple has finally unveiled its subscription services across news, television and games. Here's a quick recap of the top 5 announcements from the Apple event. The tech giant kicked off the event by adding magazines to the Apple News lineup with Apple News Plus. As of now, users in the US and Canada can pay a $9.99 monthly subscription fee, and this covers family sharing as well. The company also wants to take on traditional gaming devices with its new gaming subscription service called Apple Arcade. The new Apple TV update will now include a focus on channels like HBO, CBS, and users pay per channel instead of subscribing for large package deals for traditional cable companies. Now, the big highlight, this was the star of the show quite literally. This is Apple TV's Plus package for original programming. This on-demand service will be available with online and offline viewing, and the talent working on content includes Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, just to name a few. And finally, let's talk about Apple Card, what could possibly disrupt the credit card space as we know it. Users can apply directly on their iPhone for their Apple Card, and once approved, the card will be stored on your wallet app. To ensure high security, the card generates new security codes each time you make a purchase. So there is no credit card number, no CVV or an expiry date. The Apple Card currently is backed by Goldman Sachs and MasterCard and also offers a 2% cashback reward for each purchase that you make, and 3% for Apple purchases, that is purchases that you make on the Apple platform. Overall, I would say that Apple knows how to put up a good show, and more importantly, they know how to ensure that users stay hooked, or rather locked into the iOS ecosystem.
All right, Megha, thanks for that. But we will have to wrap up this edition of What's Up. Thank you for watching. Up next, we shift focus to the Dalal Street, where the Sensex and Nifty ended the day a percent higher. Both indices were 2% away from intraday record highs. Markets today talk back, takes all the action forward on the other side and gets you trade ready for tomorrow. We'll be back in 30 minutes with the top stories of the day with India Business Hour. Don't go anywhere.